Hello. Today I shall be discussing and explaining the techniques used during stop-motion animation. These techniques have been developed over many years by the founders of this unique skill. I shall also be talking a little bit about the pioneers of stop-frame animation and the process of editing a stop-motion production. Firstly, the pioneers of this fascinating art. Stop-motion started back in 1832 with the Kinetoscope. It was made in 1832 by Joseph Plateau. He was a scientist who lived in Luxembourg. He was the first person to show the illusion of a moving image. To do this, he used rotating discs with the repeating drawn images and tiny amounts of movement on one, and regularly spaced slits in the other. This, when spun, made the images look like they were moving. It was a flat invention, and you had to look over the top in order to see what was being projected. Then this came to the attention of William Horner, who manufactured the Zoetrope. It is a cylinder with slits cut vertically in the sides. On the inner surface of the cylinder is a band with images from a set of sequence pictures, usually drawn. As the cylinder spins, the user looks through the slits of the picture across. The scanning of the slips keeps the pictures from simply blurring together, and the user sees the images moving very fast, producing the illusion of a motion picture. A bit further down the line came Thomas Edison. Known for making the phonograph and the light bulb, he also created the kinetoscope. The kinetoscope is a motion picture exhibition device. The kinetoscope was designed for films to be viewed by one individual at a time through a small hole at the top of the device, made in 1888. Finally, after the Lumiere brothers had created the first motion picture, came the time of the inventor of the first stop-motion animation film. J. Stuart Blackson made the Humpty Dumpty Circus in 1897, in which a toy circus of acrobats and animals comes to life. In 1902, the film Finding a Bakery Shop used stop trick technique in the lighting sculpting sequence. French trick film maestro Georges Méliès used true stop motion to produce moving title card letters from one of his short films, but never exploited the process in any of his other films. This is a theory which states that the human eye always retains images for a fraction of a second, around 0.04 seconds. This means that everything we see is a subtle blend of what is happening now and what happened a fraction of a second ago. Persistence of vision plays a role in keeping the world from going pitch black every time we blink our eyes. Whenever light strikes the retina, the brain retains the impression of that light for about a tenth to a 15th of a second afterwards. When we go to the movies, we know stop motion picture creates an illusion of movement by flashing individual photographs in rapid succession. Frame rate. The number of images taken on the camera per second is known as the frame rate of the video and is measured in frames per second. The more frames recorded per second, the more accurately it can be seen. When the frame rate of the movie is too low, your mind will no longer be convinced that the contents of the movie are continuous, and the movie will appear to jump. The more frames that you have per second means the more that you are able to slow the production down and keep it continuous. Stop frame. Movement of an object is done one frame at a time, with physical objects that are moving between frames. This means that to create a stop motion movie at a frame rate of 25 FPS, then you have to create 25 photographs for every second of moving footage. When you play back the sequence of images rapidly, it creates an illusion that the photographs are moving. Movement of models. The models, scene, and everything in the shot need to be moved according to what the writer has written. If a fluid motion is to be achieved, then that means 25 photos need to be taken per second of footage. So that means each picture of the movement needs to be a tiny amount based on how fast the object needs to look like it's travelling. Now that techniques have been understood, I'll be looking at where we can find animation before I end this video with how developers have used techniques to create the films we can see now. Animation is everywhere. Stop motion animation is also everywhere. From adverts on the TV to programs of channel idents. Channel idents are little bits of animation during adverts and before shows that advertise the particular channel you're watching. TV shows that have been made using stop motion animation are mostly, famously of all, Wallace and Gromit
Can't do with
episodes
Spielman, I
and
can't do
feature
very much
animated
with
series.
Fate.
Some films that have been made using stop motion are the Wallace and Gromit Curse of the Were-Rabbit, Tim Burton's The Corpse Bride, A Town Called Panic, and Fantastic Mr. Fox. Some adverts that have been made using stop motion animation are the Lurpak advert, John Lewis advert, Change for Life, and Xbox. I shall now be looking at the forefathers for the development of these animations. Willis Harold was an American motion picture special effects and stop motion animation pioneer, who according to ASFIA, Hollywood was responsible for the best known images in cinema history. He is best remembered for his work on The Lost World 1925, King Kong 1933 and Mighty Joe Young in 1949, for which he won the 1950 Academy Award for Best Visual Effects. Ray Harryhausen was an American visual effects creator and producer who created a form of stop-motion model animation known as Dynamation. Dynamation is a form of stop-motion animation designed to merge with live-action footage to create the illusion of a real-world fantasy sequence, and from this animation industry of today has been influenced massively. Contemporary works. Aardman Animation, Mikey Please and Tim Burton are huge companies famous for creating world-renowned stop-motion animation. Aardman are responsible for creating Wallace and Gromit, Chicken Run, Creature Comforts and Flushed Away. They are based in Bristol in the UK and have entertained the world since 1972 when the company was created. Mikey Please, born Michael Please, is a BAFTA award-winning animator who studied at the London University of the Arts to get where he is today. Some of his work includes The Eagleman Stag. It is a 9-minute-long stop-motion animated film and is darkly comic take on a man's obsession with the quickening perception of time that faces us as we age his attempts to counter this effect.
Yes, this seems about right. I am 4 years old, and I'm being told that I'm not allowed another birthday party for a quarter of my life. It's 3 years later. I find a slow worm coiled beneath the lid of a bin. I am absorbed for hours dissecting its intricate details, the tiny hooks beneath silver scales where once were feet, a forked tongue, layered stripes, and see here, blue patination along the left dorsal side, but not the right. It's so exciting. The next 12 years are insignificant. Ha 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 ha. This half pint makes my hands look huge. I say to Philip, the entire world is defined by context. Even the very way we experience the passing of time, every second is smaller compared to the last. And then he says, oh, I don't know. It's what you make of it. It's how we spend the moments, Peter. That's what makes them weighty. Yes, that too. Couldn't agree more. Look at this. You've got beer in your beard. We've been here for 2 hours, which makes up less than a 150,000th of my life thus far. Whereas for my eldest child, the same amount of time is, well, it's 14 times more. Time for him is so potent. I am deeply jealous, and these thoughts return to me often. I'm 45, and having vowed never to do anything twice again, I find myself leading a 12-strong team of taxonomists through the southern Amazon. Fly, 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 life. Life. I divide naming rights between the team, and I call a particularly elegant arthropod the Eagleman Stag. With each new find, the sand swells to rock. The years are weighty again. Everything is going really well. It's 3:36 a.m. and I am weeping into a fistful of documents denying me funding for an expedition to the Tristan Islands. Bureaucracy has thwarted me. It's too much to take. I snap my pen and I cut the heads off every insect in the East Wing. The blood on my hand is a deep and brilliant red. In the case of the Eagleman Stag, I find a severed head next to an apparently unharmed, fully headed beetle. It seems I have discovered the first known living creature with the ability to regrow fresh nerve tissue. I am overwhelmed by the potential for medical advancement. An end to paralysis, Alzheimer's, and dementia even. But in a moment of bitter resentment for the scientific community and human beings in general, I decide not to tell anybody about this. My initial moment of consciousness, with nothing else to compare it to, lasted a lifetime. And yet, the moment that followed became but half a lifetime, and therefore must have passed twice as quickly. It is 80 years later, and there are 2 flasks to my left. The first is to forget, to induce a total amnesia, to forget it all, everything, to break the connections and reset the clock. The second is to remember again, to use the cells of the Eagleman Stag to build links and memories anew, to see infinity again in that first waking thought, to take my final fleeting years of life and fill them with the awe of infancy, to bring weight. Everything I've ever said is compressed into a single word. I see infinity in a plyboard desert and feel a brief, terrifying sensation that I'm an inanimate object.
Thank you for watching my video on the history, techniques and people involved in today's stop-motion animation industry.